Hi everybody. In this video, I will talk about Redux Saga Flow and start with a counter app, a very simple example. So firstly, we continue with the Redux Flow. In the Redux Flow, we have to dispatch action from action to reducer. And now between this, we have a Redux Saga. And using Redux Saga, we can get data from the server and dispatch to the reducer. So the detail as here assumes that we have an API server and we send requests from Redux Saga to server to get the data, and then the data will send the response to Redux Saga. For example, JSON data, text data, and then Redux Saga will have some effect or function to dispatch to the reducer. So now I will continue with a simple counter app using Redux. Yes, so you have to work with Redux firstly and then add Saga to Redux. Firstly, I will create some basic photo here: action, container, reducer, container, etc. Okay, so we have some of the basic directory for the Redux of Saga Flow. Firstly, we start with UI component. So we have the counter component.js. In this file, we have a React Native component to display the user interface. And so, what about the design? I can see. Firstly, we have the button here, the button to increase or decrease, and I have to install this package. Then open terminal and run the program React Native, install React Native button, and this will install the package and link the package to iOS and Android. So we have to clear, then list all to check for yes, and you check for here. So package is installed. Here we have a React Native button install. So come back to the user interface. We have a counter component and we have the view. The view is the main view here with the React Native component. And inside this we have the text Redux Saga tutorial in the top. At the top we have Redux Saga tutorial, and two buttons below will be added to a view. So we have a view to contain two button, increment and decrement. And inside the view we can have firstly we have a decrement button. Yes, so the decrement button has a event on press when you press the button. So this button will be called using container. So I will add a container later. Secondly, we have the button for increase, the value of state increase. It is an integer to increase by step 1 or 2, etc. So below the two button we have a text to display count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And this is a basic user interface for counter application. So we now create a new file for container. Container will map property to from state and dispatch to the property. Then you can call it in Redux Flow. So we have a map to state to prop to convert to the change property to state to property, and we have map dispatch to prop. We convert dispatch function to property or props, and then this container will connect to the component. So the container will be outer of the UI component and connect to the component using the connect function. And if we want to dispatch action, so we have to create action to dispatch here. So in the action folder, we create a new action types. In this, we have many action type here. Action type is simply a string. So we have increment and decrement is true string. So in a complicated app, you should use it, but in a simple app, you can directly define it in your own code. Not necessary to add to a separate file. So now create action from action type, and you have to create a new file for action, index.js for creating action, and we have to import the action type. We have action is object, and action must have a type attribute and payload and etc. Many property, many attributes. So we have a step here, but you have to add type. So step here mean 1, 2, 3. You can increase or decrease step. So we do similarly with decrease action. So we have two action, increase action and decrease action. And now you can dispatch action from container after having action here, and you can dispatch action in the container. So you firstly import the action from action creator, and then dispatch action, and then after having action, you can map to prop. So the prop name is oncrement. Oncrement is a function or the function props. So this is map prop. We have a function with the input parameter step, and you dispatch this function using decrease action here. You call the action from the action creator. So we have a decrease action here, and with the input parameter is step. So we similarly have on increment a function prop to increase the step. So you can dispatch increase actions. So here you can see that after having the prop, you can call the prop from a component. You convert this by this.prop on increment, and step is 1. And similarly to decrease, you can call on increment. So on increment here with the step 1. So this dot prop this on increment, and now you can define reducer for changing state. Because after you have action, you can set the reducer. So we have the file counter reducer. In this file, I define the function to change state, or the reducer will contain some function to change the state. Firstly, you import decrement and increment action type, and this is a function. Reducer are the function with change state. So the input is timers. Times now is state. So after increase, the time will increase, and vice versa decrease. So we have now here you can map state to prop to change your state to property. So we have a timer, state counter reducer, and counter reducer here I can get the property as a name you export from the reducer. Using this, you have the property to map to state. So this is counter reducer. So dot counter reducer will give you times, and you can change it here by change to properties this dot prop dot times. Okay, so time here is this state. You can use this state from mapping to here, from your container. Yes, this is very useful. You do not need to know about the state, get the state here, you replace this by props. So what about the store and provider? We import the function create store and provider to add the outer of the root component. So firstly, you have to install this package Redux and React Redux. So using React Native install Redux, you can install the Redux library and React Redux to connect between the Redux and React. So checking this by cat package.json, you see that this library has been added to this JSON file. And you can also install the Redux Saga here by using React Native install Redux Saga. Yes, so we have the Redux Saga install and link to iOS and Android. Okay. So come back to here. You can import own reducer from reducer, and you import the counter container from the container. So this container will be inside the provider, and the provider is inside the store. So we have the store here is a single object in the overall application to manage own state in your app. So the app here, the app component is a root component here. It is an arrow function, and in this arrow function we return to a JS with the provider, and the prop of the provider is a store. And inside the provider we have the root component. Now it is a counter container. Yes. So another problem is how to combine this reducer to own reducer. You have to define the own reducer, but it's an object that binding from own your reducer. So create index.js in your reducer directory, and this file will define own reducer. So you import the function combine reducer from Redux, and import own the reducer from counter reducer. If you have multiple reducer here, you can import multiple reducer to some of object here, counter reducer, x reducer, y reducer, etc. And then you call combine reducer with the input is reducer separated by comma if you have many reducer, and export reducer to make the own reducer public. Yes. And after pressing decrease, it is decrease, change state, it change state and decrease. By changing the state, and the state will be converted to a prop and display to the user interface. And how to show change state? How can you show? You can use a console log or alert. So use alert. You can stringify the counter reducer. Yes. And after click, yes, we have a 2, and here we have 1 to decrease. Yes, this is very simple for an application counter. So thanks for watching my lesson today. Please subscribe to my channel for more exciting videos, and download code from GitHub here.